Hello everybody, I'm Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we do a different watercolor project every single week. And this week we are doing this rain boots.
Are those real boots?
They look it because we nailed that glare. And let me tell you, we're gonna go over how to do that. So we have 4 steps with this project. Pretty simple. Step 1, we're gonna fill in the boots, except the chunks that are outlined. 2, we're going to kind of blend the glare a little bit. Step 3, we're going to put in our shrubbery. Is that the right word?
Bring me a shrubbery.
Please bring me a shrubbery. What's the word? Foliage, leaves, whatever you want. And then the last step is just finishing details. That's it.
And where can people get this kit?
Why, Brock, they can get this kit at letsmakeart.com. If you paint a lot, then you should look into our subscription box. You get 4 kits for $35, a different one, not 4 of the same, 4 different. Or if you're just interested in this kit, then you can get it for 15 bucks on our website. It comes with paint and paper, all of that good stuff.
Letsmakeart.com.
Letsmakeart.com. And we have 4 colors today. We have violet, we have rose red, we have yellow ochre, and azure blue. There it is. That's how you pronounce it. We Googled. We looked it up. Azure. I think we're ready to get started. Yeah? Let's paint.
Before we get started, do you have any tips on using these bottles with droppers?
Brock, I'm so glad. You should be getting your November boxes, and inside you'll notice that they have these caps instead. Benefit, not childproof. Okay, you can open these babies up easy. And they have orifice reducers instead of droppers. So I just bang it on my tray is how I get it out. So I didn't mind it, and I think
this is just a test for this month.
This is a test because we're trying to find ones that are easier to open. We hear you guys that are saying that the childproof is really impossible to open and it's frustrating. So we're trying to see if this model works. We think the orifice reducers are a good option. So let us know. Let us know how you feel about it. We love feedback, and we love doing what you want to do. So just let us know about that.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome. And let's do this then. 4 colors. If you're new and you have these palettes, I like to put them on the edges, and then I mix in the middle. And if they keep on blending together and running in together, it could be 2 things. It could be that you're putting way too much paint on it. So you'll see I put a lot of blue on here, and that's why it's running. These ones I didn't do as much. They're kind of staying in place. The other thing is maybe your table isn't level, right?
That could be.
That could be. I just realized it the other day. If you're working on a surface that isn't level, they'll move.
So maybe get some shims and shim up
Maybe shim it up. Okay, let's paint. If you get the kit or the subscription, you should have an outline with graphite paper in there, or you can just get the outline on our website, letsmakeart.com, and you can paint with whatever paints you have. To trace it, you just put the outline down, tape it at the top so it doesn't move. Then you take your graphite paper and you do it dark side down, like that. And then you take a pencil or a pen or whatever, and you start to outline it. If you press really hard, and I'll show you, I'll press really hard over here. See how much darker that is than that? So try and press as light as possible, just super soft pressing. And the great thing about taping it is you can just check it as you go. So you'll know if it's too light or too dark, or if you missed anything, that kind of stuff. So that's how you use graphite paper. And you can use graphite paper multiple times. You can see that I've outlined a ton of different stuff on here. So don't throw it away. All right, let's do this. Now when you put your outline on your paper, make sure you put it down near the bottom, because we want to have all of this room on the top for our flowers. Don't try and center these boots on your page, because then you're only going to have like this much space for your flowers. So give it some room. Okay, now these boots I painted like a blackish color with some blue undertones, and we do not have black in our 6 colors that we send you, so we mix it. Thankfully, black and brown are super easy colors to make, because it's basically just mixing all of the colors together into like a muddy mess. That's our goal. So I'm gonna use my larger brush to like grab colors to mix it. So I have my round 6. The other brush we're using is a round 2. And I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna grab some blue, bring it to the center. And then I'm gonna grab some yellow. And then I'm gonna grab some red.
You said yellow? That looked awfully green.
Because it hit my blue and mixed with it. But I have a clean yellow over here. So whenever you're mixing colors, especially using yellow, put them in different piles, have multiple piles of yellow, because if you have one big one and you pull from it, then color's gonna seep into that and it will, oh, somebody told me the word. It's a C word.
Corrupt?
No, no, no. No, what's that word?
We'll think of it later.
We'll think of it later. Somebody else comment again and let me know because I forgot already. Contaminate.
Contaminate.
It will contaminate your yellow. And then throw some purple in there. Now, the tricky thing with this is, I guess not the tricky thing, but the thing you need to remember is that since we're not using straight black and we're mixing our black, it is gonna have some undertone of color. And that is totally okay. That's how it happens in nature. That's how black happens in real life. So you can see here for my boots that I have some undertones of like blue and a little bit of purple. So if you're mixing this and you're like, this is just like purple, that's okay. It just needs to be dark. But if you're mixing it and you just want to tone down that one color a little bit, this is where complementary colors and color theory come into play. So we can do a little color wheel and I'll show you guys how it works. Just real quick. Okay, just a little quickie.
I'm excited.
You guys, this is good stuff here. So you make a circle. You can buy one of these on our website if you don't want to make one, but it's pretty basic, so. No, wait, that's not right. Sorry.
Pretty basic, but.
But hold on, I messed up. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you make a circle with 6 triangles like a pizza pie. And then you start with red and you go around.
And you're just going in the order that they show up in the rainbow?
Yeah, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. You keep them in order.
Where does indigo go?
We're doing red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple are our 6. Okay, Brock?
Sorry.
So complementary colors tone down each other. Okay, so a complementary color is whatever color is directly across the color from it. So red and green are complementary colors. Purple and yellow are complementary, and blue and orange. So if I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is reading too much purple, I want to tone down the purple. Well, then you're going to grab yellow, and in our case, that's yellow ochre. I'm going to grab some yellow ochre and I'm going to add it to it. And it's going to take some of that purple out. It's going to tone it down. It's going to give it a muddier color, a more brown color.
That is pretty cool.
And I'm gonna add a little bit more blue because I liked how on my boots there was like a blue undertone, so I'm just adding one more swoop of blue. So anyways, this comes in super handy, especially when we mix colors, because you can easily adjust the colors just by using the complements. So that's what those are. And I'm marking, these are primary. Red, yellow, and blue are primary colors. You can't mix those colors, just so you know.
You're saying you can't make those colors?
You can't make those colors. So if I had purple and green, you don't mix those to get blue. Blue is not a color you can mix. You kind of have to start with it. Same with red and same with yellow. However, the other 3 colors on the wheel, you can mix to get those. And that's it. That's it for our color theory lesson. Okay, so I'm starting with step 1. I'm still using my big brush. And I'm not adding a lot of water to it because I want this to stay a dark value. So I'm gonna have as much paint as possible. I'm gonna fill my brush with paint, and then I'm just gonna start filling it in. And you might be like, that's not dark enough, I want it darker. Well, you can always add another layer on top to darken it. And you can always a lot of it is just like adding, just keep on adding these colors. Just keep on getting a super dark color. Let's see if that's darker. Oh yeah, nice and dark. Now on our outline, there are these chunks around the boots that I'm going to avoid. I'm not going to paint those yet. And the reason is because that's our glare. Now, how we tell, if we're trying to recreate something that is wet or rubbery, that kind of thing, it's all about the glare. It's all about making sure that there's lots of white spots, and then that's how we communicate to a viewer if something is wet or has that specific texture. So I'm just going to kind of avoid these.
Any tips for if you accidentally painted a white spot?
If you accidentally painted a white spot, you just got to forgive yourself and move on, because this is a pretty dark color, so it would be really hard to pick up and erase. You can always lighten it by adding water and then patting it with your paper towel. But if I like accidentally did this, you got to like just be like, that's fine, and move on, because I can't erase that line. I can lighten it, but I can't erase it.
Well, luckily there's 2 sheets of paper in every kit.
There are 2 sheets. You just keep on filling.
Those are looking beautiful.
That was good, Brock.
Been working on the dad joke since
I
I had my
love
daughter.
it. And you might have black left over from, I think we had it in the October box, or maybe you just have a black watercolor. And if you don't want to do all this mixing and you just want to use black, use black. It's your painting. It's your life. Do whatever you want. I wanted to show you guys that you don't, one, that you don't have to buy black, that you can mix it, and 2, that sometimes there's a richness in what you're painting if you let there be color undertones to your black instead of just gray. And I'm going to do the top part. I'm kind of avoiding the buckle a little bit right now. We'll go back to it.
Now, is this all supposed to be a one value, or are you leaving some lighter areas near the top?
I'm trying to make it more one value, pretty much just dark. But I will show you on a couple areas. We're gonna try and lift a little bit of color out to make it lighter. So like, this is all, and it looks a little bit different right now because some are wet and some are drying, so that could be why the value's off a little bit. But just as long as it basically reads pretty dark, you're gonna be good. Now, to lift some color up, because I wanna do is I wanna make it a little bit lighter right on this curve here, right on the front part of the foot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rinse my brush, kind of put it off on my paper towel so it's just damp. And while this is still wet, you have to do it while it's still wet, I'm just going to take my clean brush and do a swipe right here at the top. Then you pat it, I'm gonna do it one more time, swipe.
Just taking that color right out.
And I'm just lifting color. Now, if you let this dry too long, then it's gonna be a lot harder to lift, it's gonna be a lot harder to lighten, so try and do it while it is wet. But we're using so much paint and heavy color that you should be able to do it still. Okay, and now I'm going to do the next boot. So I'm just gonna take my dark value, and just fill it in. Now you'll see here at the top, there's like a ridge at the top of the rain boot. I'm gonna try and leave just like the thinnest little line at the top, and it's not gonna go all the way across. It's right here and right here, just a little hint, because we want to show that there's like another lip on top of that, so we kind of want to give the hint of an edge. My yellow's contaminated. That's okay, I'll pour more.
Contaminated? Good word.
No, I remembered it now.
That's just a whole paint party on your palette right now.
It is. And some of you are gonna ask, well, what happens if I run out of that mixing and then I mix another one and it's slightly different? That's what's happening to me right now. I'm embracing it. I'm not gonna get mad about it because here's the thing. I'm the type of painter that kind of just goes with the flow, okay? Now, some people are really like organized and they like mix their palette totally right before. I'm just not that way. Now, if you are that way and it really bothers you that there are different like shades going on of the black, then what you're gonna wanna do is just make sure you mix a ton at the beginning and you can just pull from that the entire time. But for me, I don't really care. I think it just adds interest. I don't know. I'm also not a super organized person, so I just kind of let things go. Because I'm like, mix it before, that takes too long. Okay.
You mean you don't have a lot of extra time in between having two girls and working at Let's Make Art?
Yeah. All the other things. I think even if I did have time, I still wouldn't do it. I'm gonna be honest. I know who I am, okay, and I'm okay with it. So I'm filling in my boots. I have some white sections. Maybe I'll add a couple, because this is kind of a brownish color. So you can always introduce it back into the other boot if it's just bothering you too much. Now you might notice that looking on this back boot here, when it's closest to this front boot, it's really dark. And then it's a little bit lighter on the other side. Now I did that on purpose because this boot is behind this other one. So we want to make it clear that this boot is farther away from it. And the best way to do that is have it be a darker value where it meets, because that shows that it's coming out from behind and the light isn't hitting that part because this front boot is covering it. So if you are going to have a darker area, and you can even see here on the example, I have some lightness over here. I do not have any over here.
And you've left a little bit of white space between the two boots.
I did on the example, I left a little bit of white space. I don't know if that was necessarily on purpose. It might have just been like, here's just a little white space. This one I just made it fully dark.
And they both look great.
As long as you do one or the other. It's the similar with the leaves where I said if you want the veins to leave them white, they're still gonna look like veins. So it's your painting, you can decide what you wanna do. I colored mine in this time. Maybe you like that better, do that. And then let's do our little buckle here. Now avoid the square. Leave it on the outline because we're gonna fill that in with a lighter color later on. Just like that. Okay, you guys, we did step one. Awesome, congratulations. Now we're gonna move on to step two, which is now we have our glares on our boot, but we need to blend them a little bit. So you'll see here that in my example, I just have really harsh white lines. And here I blended them out a little bit so it has a softness to it. And the reason for that is when you look at glares, there's a transition of color. It doesn't usually just go like, it's a black thing and then just like sections of white. It's like there's a black thing and there's like a light gray and then a white and then back down to a gray and then black. So that's what we're trying to establish here, is that there's just soft transition, and that's gonna make our glare more believable. So to do that, basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a wet brush that's damp, and using the color that I already laid down for my boots, I'm just gonna blend this color out just a little bit. So basically, I'm just kind of going more on the edges. I'm trying to leave the center part of it white. And I'm not going to do that on every single section. Like some of them are going to be too tiny to do that too. So the really tiny ones you can kind of just like leave. So maybe like this top one, I'm not really gonna do anything to that. I'm gonna do a little bit on this other side. And then I kind of like filled in a little bit on the middle on this one. Now I colored the middle of it to give you guys an example. And I'll show you that you can lift color a little bit even after it dries, but not a ton. So basically we're just trying to soften those glare lines to where they don't feel so chunky. Or blocky, I guess.
You want chunky chocolate chip cookies, not chunky glare lines.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Right, everybody loves chunky chocolate chip cookies.
Chunklet?
Oh, Brock, I forgot to send you that chocolate chip cookie recipe. I'll do that. You guys, Brock loves to bake.
I'm a connoisseur of good chocolate chip cookies.
He loves chocolate chip cookies, and I was just like, I have literally the best chocolate chip cookie recipe I ever had.
She says that, but I've never seen it.
Okay,
so.
if you're interested, it's Jacques Torres chocolate chip cookies. They're amazing. He uses bittersweet chocolate, and then he puts sea salt before he bakes them. So it's salty and sweet, and they are so good. Google it. Jacques Torres chocolate chip cookies. You can thank me later. They are amazing. Okay, same thing on this one. I'm just kind of going through. I'm blending out some of these colors, or some of these glares. Now, the one in the back are not going to have as bright of glares as the one in the front. And the reason is because, again, we want to make it clear this boot is in front. This one is a little bit further away, and when things are further away in space, they are less contrasty. They have less super white and super dark. They're more in the middle. That's how we can communicate space. It's called atmospheric perspective. Now, this one's not as extreme because they're still pretty next to each other. It's not like mountains in the distance. So we do still have some glares in the front, but they're not going to be as extreme as the one here. Okay, great. So now we have some great rubber boots, right? They're looking great. This is still pretty wet. That's going to dry out, but I'm going to move on. I don't need to wait for that to dry to do the flowers. So we finished step 2, you guys. Good job. On to step 3. I'm using my round 2. Now,
time to add the shrubbery.
Now we're adding shrubbery, and I'm going to put more yellow on my palette because I mixed it away. You got to get used to that sound with this box. Okay, and I got paint on my hands. Like a professional. Now I look like a real artist. Okay, so I like to start with the large areas first and then go down to smaller. So usually what I do is I'll do the flowers and then the larger leaves, and then I'll start putting in the smaller, I kind of call them filler leaves. So we're going to start with the flower. Now, the wonderful thing about watercolor and florals is they go hand in hand. So if you're thinking like, I can't do a flower in watercolor, you absolutely can. Basically, if you just do like a circular shape with either a light center or a dark center, it's going to come across as a flower. So don't stress out. But what I like to do, and what I'm going to show you how to do, is I'm going to do, one of them is going to be a squiggle flower and the other one's going to be more of a rose. If you want to practice this on a different sheet of paper before you paint it on your actual painting, feel free to.
The squiggle flower, is that native to Missouri?
Oh, squiggle flower, yes, only comes from Missouri. Okay, so for my first flower, I'm going to mix my violet and my rose red together to get kind of like this really pretty magenta-y color. If you want it more on the pink side, you're going to add more of the red. If you want more on the purple side, you're going to add more of the purple. It's just how mixing goes. Add whatever color you want it to have more of. Okay, now when you do a rose, you have to think about the petals, and the thing with flowers is they're super concentrated in the thing with roses is that the petals are really concentrated in the middle, and then they kind of bloom out from there. And so what we do is we do tighter, shorter lines in the middle, and then as we go out to the edge of the flower, our lines are going to get longer and they're going to get a little bit looser, and then that is going to give us the idea that it's like still blooming and it's blooming out from there. So I'm going to grab my little round 2. I'm going to start probably on like the left hand side over here, but you can do flowers wherever you want. This is your time to be creative. And if you don't like flowers, don't put them in your painting. Do all leaves, or you can do whatever you want. It's your painting. So I'm going to do small curved lines that are alternating. So you see how I like paint a line and then I kind of overlap in between? I'm kind of overlapping. And now that I'm starting to get closer to the edge, my lines are getting longer and a little bit more space. And then while it's wet, I rinse my brush and I'm just going to use water and blend out the color that I already laid down.
Is this the squiggle flower?
This is not the squiggle flower because we did not start with the squiggle. This is more of the rose.
Oh yeah, those are not squiggles.
If they don't blend, if the color doesn't blend out as much as you would like, while it's still wet, you can just grab some more color on your paintbrush and kind of fill those in a little bit. And then I'm gonna put like a tight little center in here, like a circle right in the middle. So we're trying to communicate it's tight in the middle, it gets looser and bigger as it goes. And then something that always helps too is we want it to get lighter as it goes out. So I like to just use a damp brush with clean, and then I just kind of do these swooping kind of lines. And then these look like petals that are like opening up and that are farther away. So there's a little rose. And I'm gonna do a squiggle flower on this side. I'm gonna make it a little bit more pink so there's variation. So I'm grabbing more of that rose red color. And this one, we start with the squiggle. That's why it's called a squiggle flower. So I'm gonna do it on the right hand side over here, and I'm just gonna do a squiggle. And you're like, how can that turn into a flower? Well, let me show you. When you rinse your brush after you do your squiggle, and you're only gonna go along the edge of the squiggle and just swoop it around. Now you see I'm kind of leaving some white spaces in the middle here. That is on purpose. I'm not going to fill in the entire middle because we want to make it seem like petals are going in and out. So we need there to be lights in there. So we need some spaces to be white. And then just using a light wash, or if you have enough paint, just water. And then we're going to do the same swoopies kind of on the outside. So that's a squiggle flower. That one's more of a rose.
That looks pretty easy.
Yeah, it's not too bad. You can just practice it a couple of times and see if you like it. But you can do whatever flowers you want in here. Maybe you would rather do like daisies or something because those ones have just those petals with the dark center. Do what feels right to you. Right?
Right.
Right.
Been saying it for years.
Follow your instinct. Okay. I'm going to do another flower on this side, but this one's kind of on its side. So I'm basically going to make like long curved lines like this. So you see how they're nice and curved? And then I'm going to do like one line going the other curved leg on the other side. Okay? And then I'm going to take my handy dandy water, rinse my brush, just using water, blend a little of this out. So now that looks like a rose with layers that's turned to the side. This is the center, this is the side we're seeing, and that's the other side. You see that, Brock? You see it?
Yeah, I see that. That is that's impressive.
And if you're like me and you like to live on the edge, you can drop in some color. I said it. So while it's still wet, you can always drop in a little bit of color. It's gonna bleed out and get messy. That might seem scary, but that's why it's called living on the edge. Because you're like,
twice in one video.
you're like, I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but let's just try that. So give it a shot. Give it a shot if you're feeling up to it, you know? Okay, and I'm gonna do a couple other flowers in here. I'm actually going to mix a little bit of my yellow ochre with a little bit of the rose red to get almost like an orange color. Now this one, if you think of roses that you did in like elementary school or something where they're basically like, here's a scratch paper so I can show you. They just are like the same ridged thing if you start in the middle and then you just keep on adding petals as you go out. Brock, did you ever do this?
I can't say I drew a lot of flowers in elementary school.
You missed a great time in your life. That's essentially the flower we're gonna make.
Can you put that back? Because
Yeah.
you painted the smallest flower.
Here, it's so tiny.
Let me just get that in the camera here. Okay, yeah.
Sorry, should I put it closer up to the top one?
Oh, there's a flower on that paper.
You're funny.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, but you can make this whatever color you want. Maybe you don't like the yellow-orange look and you want to stay within the pink purples. Feel free to do that. So I'm basically going to do those like curved lines. I'm not going to start off with the circle in the center. I'm just going to kind of like just go around and then kind of go in betweens, and you keep on just adding petals. Now the thing to remember when you're doing flowers is you got to work fast because we do a lot of blending. So I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to use water and blend some of these colors, blend some of this together. Just like that. And that kind of looks like a chrysanthemum or something.
I've never even heard of that flower.
Are you serious?
I know roses and daisies.
And sunflowers. We painted a sunflower.
Sunflowers.
There's even a cute little book about a mouse called Chrysanthemum.
If you give a mouse a cookie?
No, not that one. Okay. And then I'm going to do little like black-eyed Susans, I think is what they're called. And this one's just going to be more of that like yellow ochre color. And those ones you just kind of do these like daisy flowers, but only like the bottom half.
What did you call this one? A black-eyed Susan?
Yeah. And then they have really big dark centers. So you're just going to do a nice, I'm just grabbing the black that I use for my boots. And there's my flower. They look like that. It's a real thing.
I think I have one in my house.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure they're called black-eyed Susans. Should have looked it up before I did this.
I have no reason to tell you you're wrong.
And I'll do another one over here. Okay. So those are our flowers. We'll add a little bit more, but now we're going to put in our large leaves. So to get our green, we're going to just mix together the yellow ochre and the blue. Because if you look back at our handy dandy color chart that we made, if you mix complementary colors, you're going to get these secondary colors. So if you need to know how to mix orange, it's red and yellow. To mix green, it's blue and yellow. And to mix purple, it's blue and red. So we're going to mix green. I just need blue and yellow.
And the whole time you're saying blue, you mean azure, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just don't want people to be confused.
Azure blue is blue when I say blue.
During this tutorial.
During this tutorial, azure blue is blue. Okay. And then I'm going to start with some leaves. And how I do leaves is it's basically like you're drawing an eyeball. Not a ball, but like the opening of an eyeball. Did you ever try and draw an eye when you were a kid? I'm referencing all these things because I'm trying to remember how I drew things when I was younger. And then I just realized that maybe a lot of people didn't do that and these references are zero help.
Yeah.
Okay, it's basically like a curved line with a point at the top and bottom. So I'm going to do my curve and curve. So you see how they come to a point at the top and the bottom? That's what we're doing here, folks. That's what we're looking for.
Folks.
And then I always like to do my top leaf first because then I know where it ends, and then I do my stem from there. And to get a nice thin stem, all you're going to do is just really light pressure. Meet that up there. Okay, there's my stem. And then I just add leaves from there. And you can like work around flowers that you already laid down. You can have them have another tiny little stem that meets the main stem. You can have them come straight off of the stem.
So many possibilities.
It's your world that you're creating here, so do whatever you want.
And plants are so unique that somewhere in the world there are plants that look like that.
So many variations in plants. You can't go wrong here. Maybe you want your leaves to be more curved. You can do that, you know? You can have some that are smaller. There's a little baby leaf right there.
You want to show them the one brushstroke leaf?
Oh yeah, okay. Now, we use round brushes, and the great thing about round brushes is you can do a thin and thick stroke in the same stroke, just depending on your pressure. So if you want to do a single brush, a single stroke leaf, okay? And don't be mad if you can't do this because it takes some practice. you're gonna fill your paintbrush with water. You're gonna start off really light pressure, then you're gonna push down and then lift it back up.
You said fill your paintbrush with water. I think you mean paint, right?
Fill your paintbrush with paint.
Okay.
Thank you, Brock.
Sometimes you do fill it with water, but that was not this time.
Yeah, I really should pay attention to myself when I talk. If I just listen to myself.
We're making a tutorial here.
Pay attention here. Okay, so I'll do it one more time and you can start from the stem or from the outside. It's just thin and then you push down. You kind of use the side of your paintbrush and then you kind of narrow it back up. And that is a single brush stroke leaf.
And that works with round brushes, right?
It works with round brushes.
Don't do this with your liner.
If you have a liner, not gonna work out. If you have like a flat brush, which it is called a flat, not gonna work out. And then I'm just gonna keep on going, and when I run into the boots, my leaf is just gonna kind of disappear behind that boot. And I do a mixture of one stroke and then drawing out my leaves and filling it in. There's not a right or wrong one, whatever you wanna do. And I'm just gonna keep on filling it in. I'm gonna put some leaves over here. Now the other thing you wanna pay attention to is the direction of your leaves. So if you look at our example here, my stem direction, and I know it sounds silly, but sometimes it's easier to recognize it when you take your pencil and you just follow the lines. So the direction's going out here, and the direction's going out here, and then I have one going out here. And so you'll see that the direction changes across. And the reason why we're doing that is because that's how we see a bouquet, right? It kind of like goes out. Don't do all of your leaves standing straight up, because then how you do your lines is what's gonna give motion in your painting. So if we do all of our leaves standing straight up, then it's gonna make our viewer's eye go just straight up, and they're not gonna pay attention to anything else. They're just gonna go off the page. And we don't want that. We want them to be like, ooh, I wanna look all around this painting because it's so interesting. So if you do a round motion, not only is it true to what you would see, but it makes the eye go across. So it would make them pay attention to all of those things.
Also, that's a beautiful pencil.
Competition. I meant to say composition, not competition. This pencil was made by Man Sewing, Rob. He made it for me. Rob Appel. Thank you. What a guy. Thank you for this pencil. Okay. So I'm going to start over on the left side. It's going to be angled towards the left because it's going out that way. I'm going to start with my first leaf. And then I'm going to draw my stem. Now, if you have too much water and paint on your brush and you try and do a thin line, even if you're doing super light pressure, it's going to show up thick. So sometimes I have to like wipe off that excess on my paper towel to get a nice thin line. And just so you know, because we're mixing so many colors, all of these colors are going to be different from each other because we're mixing pretty much all of these, which I think I like to do that because then it just makes it more your own. And I think learning how to mix colors is really important in art. And then also, since we didn't trace our leaves or our flowers, they're going to be all different placements. So don't stress about it. We love what makes us different from each other. So, you know, embrace who you are and what you paint.
It's a good message.
Thank you. Thanks. From Let's Make Art, love who you are. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep on. I'm gonna do a little bit smaller leaves coming over here. And you can make your leaves asymmetrical, which means that the leaves come out on the same point on either side. Or you can make them asymmetrical where they don't line up, like so.
I feel like you said asymmetrical both times.
No, I said symmetrical the first time. Symmetrical is when they match on either side. Asymmetrical is when they don't match.
Okay, maybe I wasn't listening.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, the shade.
Just kidding. I know you love this, Brock.
I do so much.
I know. I actually think the nice thing about the orifice reducers too is I feel like you're going to use less paint.
Less waste too.
Less waste.
Yeah.
If you want your leaves, since we're mixing these colors, if you want your leaves to have more of a yellow color, you add more of the yellow ochre. If you want more of this blue-green, you have more blue in it. So this one has a little bit more yellow in it. Just make sure you mix up the colors of green that you're using because it just adds interest to your painting. So this is more of a yellow-green. I like it. I prefer yellow greens in leaves. Okay, and then we'll do one by kind of in between here. And you might be thinking like, well, where do my stems start and where do they end? Well, here's the wonderful thing about illustrations is it doesn't necessarily have to be like imagining where the stems are going in the boots, and you don't have to like draw the stems all the way to the boot, especially because we have flowers going on here and stuff in the way. So basically I just keep in mind that they're all sprouting from the top of the boot, so you want to make sure they're going in that direction into it. But then like I'm not going to worry about the leaves behind this flower because this flower is covering it. So you kind of can just like play around with it and have leaves floating if you want. So that's probably, I'm not gonna like try and add leaves of this stem, even though technically the stem keeps on going behind this flower and you would probably see leaves on this side. There's a lot going on over here. So I'm not going to like try and make it too busy by adding more stems and leaves. And anyway, we blend all that area out with water, so no biggie. And you can do like a couple, like maybe just super large leaves if you want, like maybe coming off this flower, like that, and the stem's coming this way. And this one we're gonna give a stem to on this flower. And if you want to give it a leaf, like that. So we're going to put in filler flowers in here, which are just tinier versions of what we just did. And it just fills, it's going to fill up your bouquet. It's going to fill up these kind of big white chunks we have in there. And I also like to do those in a different color as well. I like to mix up my colors. So I'm going to add some of this like muddy black texture that I use for my boots to the green. So it's like a really dark green. And then just like very tiny little leaves with a little stem. And if it's easier for you to like turn your painting, feel free to do that. I'm going to do one kind of coming this way. And you'll also notice when I'm putting in these stems, even though I'm in the middle, I don't want them to stick straight up because it's that same thing with composition. When you have things that stick straight up and straight down, your eye immediately is going to follow it. So even ones that are right in the middle, they have a soft curve to them going to one side or the other. So keep that in mind. And some of my leaves aren't filled in. I'm okay with that. I think it just adds to it. You can also change the thickness of your leaves if you want them to be a little bit longer and a little bit skinnier. Don't be afraid of that variation.
Takes all types to make a bouquet.
Takes all types. And actually when you're putting a bouquet together, you want all these different types because when the shapes are all the same in one area, then it doesn't become as interesting as a bunch of different shapes in one area. And another trick I like to do is because if you're looking like on the very edge of our bouquet, all we're seeing in color is green. Different shades, but it's still all green. So I really like to do these kind of like little bud flowers. So it's like a section of like berry flowers or like buds that haven't bloomed yet.
Are these berries edible?
No, they're not, sorry. And that way we have some color on the rim of our bouquet. And it's not just all green. We get a little bit of color on the edges. And you can do whatever color you want. I went with like a purple and a crimson, but again, you're painting.
I did learn today that the paints are not dangerous to eat. That's what you told me?
They're not toxic.
Not toxic.
And yeah. At
But we
least
don't
that's what
recommend
I'm
eating
told.
them.
Don't eat them. Don't. Wait a second, Brock. Maybe you shouldn't have brought this up.
Wrong message.
Okay, and I just added little stems to those. And for fun, I'm gonna do like a gathering. You know how there's sometimes flowers that like, I wish I knew the name of them. They kind of like I guess wisteria, I guess would be something similar where it like gathers and they're like droopy. So they almost like have that same shape as grapes, but it's just a bunch of small ones together and they like droop down.
Did you say listeria?
Wisteria. Wisteria.
Ah, not the gum disease.
Not that. Wisteria.
Ah.
So we're gonna do something similar to that. We're gonna do a bunch of circles that are big at the top, and then they get a little smaller as you go down. And they're kind of like
That is cute.
that same drooping flower feel that you'll see some places. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about.
Looks like
but
white grapes.
yeah, kind of like.
Those are edible.
Yes, those are edible. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I want it to feel more full where it's coming out of, and because there's all of this white space in there. Oh, we're moving on to step 4. Step 4, last step, details. So there's all of this white space in between here, which makes it feel sparse. So what I like to do when I want to make something feel like there's a lot going on but not have to paint every single stem of flower is I just like to blend. So you can try using the colors that are already there. So I'm just using water and I'm just kind of at the bottom blending. And you can add different colors of green if you want.
You're avoiding the flowers though, eh?
I'm avoiding the flowers. I'm going around the flowers because I want those colors to stay those colors. I don't want it to get too muddy. Okay? And then, but I don't, you see how there's like a harsh line right here? We kind of want to let it blend into almost nothingness. So I'm just going to use clean water. I rinse my brush again and just kind of keep blending out to where it's like a very soft transition. So you see how it's like darker over here and then it gets lighter?
Yeah, that is nice.
That's just because we just added water to it to get that light color at the end. And then now, if you look at it, our boots feel like there's so much more like greenery coming out of it because it's kind of messy and you can't see, but it's green. So it should feel more full that way by just kind of blending out. And you can do it even above this first flower a little bit if it's not enough for you. But the whole goal is to make it just feel full. And then if it blends out too much, you can always go back. So I kind of lost shapes of my leaves there. Now you can leave that because if you see in my example here, I did lose a lot of shapes of leaves. If it bothers you though, you wait for it to dry and then you just do the leaves on top over it. So you'll have crisp leaves and still have that blended background. But in order to do that, we gotta let that dry first. So I'm just gonna do this little buckle, which is basically this like muddy color that I use for boots. I'm gonna add water to it so it's kind of like a lighter version of that same color. And just fill that buckle in.
This is just like a chrome buckle type thing?
Yeah, it's like a silver buckle.
Silver, yeah.
That's it.
Because you could probably make a gold buckle with your yellow ochre.
You absolutely could do a gold buckle. And also if, let's say you accidentally filled in all of your glares, if you have bleed-proof white, which is I highly recommend you get it. You can get it on our website, but it's like an opaque watercolor of white. You can use a white acrylic paint for something similar, but I feel like the bleed-proof white is easier to work with. And it's just white, and you can put those glare lines back in. So if you accidentally, like for me, if I had it, I might take it and put a little bit more white over here where I filled it in. So, and let's see if this is dry. Yeah, I'm gonna try and put in a darker leaf on top.
You're not just gonna leaf it alone?
I'm not gonna leaf it alone this time. There are so many tutorials we can use that joke on.
Are you saying it's getting tired?
Listen, I will never get tired of that joke.
Okay, good.
It's the best pun you've ever made.
I only have like 3, so.
I only have like 3 in my arsenal, so I gotta keep using that.
You better like it.
Okay, and you can even put some of the stem back in if you want. redo some of those leaves.
Oh, that's looking hot.
You guys, that's it. We did it. We did our rain boots. This is a super fun project, and it's gonna look, everyone is gonna look so different because of the colors and because we didn't outline the flowers, and that's because I wanted to give you guys the freedom to make it your own. Because maybe you don't feel good about your flowers, but you feel really good about your leaves. Well, then just do a bunch of different leaves, different sizes. That's gonna look great. If you paint this, share it. Tag us on Instagram. Our Instagram name is Let's Go Make Art. You can tag us on Facebook. It's the same name, Let's Go Make Art. Or if you want this really great supportive community, we have a Facebook group called Let's Make Art Together, and you have to ask to join, but we approve everybody. And you can post your paintings from our lessons on there, and it's really fun because you get to see everybody's version of the same project that you're painting. And I love looking at other people's work, and we do that not to compare. The whole point is not to look at it to be like, oh, mine is better or hers is better. The point of it is just to see that everybody approaches differently, and so it's fun to be like, hey, I really like how they did the colors on that, or I really liked the shape of that flower. And the more we expose ourselves to that variation, then the more we learn. So do that. I know it's scary, but you guys can do hard things. Is there anything else I need to say?
No, I think that's great.
Great. Okay, next week. Hold on.
Not the Hot Pocket.
Not my lunch. Okay, next week we are doing our Thanksgiving project.
Wow.
Give thanks.
That is nice.
And if you missed the announcement, we're going to teach you guys how to brush letter. So using the same paint brushes that you have, around 2, and the paint, we are going to learn how to do some lettering with Nicole, who you will meet. I can't wait to see those. So that's all I have to say. Goodbye.